everyone, I'm Maria Lyons, and today we're going to be talking about the law of trade-offs. And it comes straight out of John Maxwell's book, The Invaluable Laws of Growth. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you a question. How many of you are willing to give up to go up? Let me repeat that. How many of you are willing to give up to go up? Eric Hoffer, an American philosopher, once wrote, "People will cling to an unsatisfactory way of life rather than change in order to get something better for fear of getting something worse." So what will it take for you to get to that next level? So by a show of hands in the room, okay, how many of you believe that it would take vision? Well, yes, right? Well, how many of you believe that it would take hard work? Well, of course, right? But how many of you in the room believe that it's going to take personal growth to get you to that next level? Well, let me ask you this. How many of you in the room are actually focused on personal growth? I mean, you can't keep growing unless you are, right? How many of you are willing to let go of something that you really value and love to go up in life? You see, that's actually what it's going to take to help you go up. But believe it or not, that's one of the things that most people hold on to, even people who have achieved some level of success. Think about it this way. When you're first starting out in your career, it's not very hard to give up to go up, right? In fact, you would give up everything for an opportunity. Am I right? But what about when you have started to acquire a little bit of success? Like you're working a job that you like, or you have a nice salary. You're now living in a comfortable home, in a community with people that you enjoy. What about that level of security? Do you have that picture in your mind? Now, would you be willing to give that up? You see. Now, that's a little bit harder question for you now, isn't it? I could see that it made some of you uncomfortable in your seats. But I want you to really think about this. Are you willing to give up that picture to live a life of your greatest potential? Let me tell you my story. You see, a while back, I was living a really great life. I had achieved my dream of owning a dance and theater company, and I was living in a nice home, in a good community, and everything around me was safe, just as it should be. I was sitting in my hot tub one day, and I was thinking, you know what? This is really good. You know, I get up every morning, I homeschool my kids, and in the evening I teach dance and theater, I eat good food, and I end my day relaxing in my hot tub, day in and day out. You know, I was the envy of my friends because my friends would look at me and they'd say, you know what, Maria, you were one of the lucky ones. You know, in college, you went out and you decided to pursue your dream and your goals, and you accomplished them. You did it. I would just look at them and smile and nod and agree. And it might have appeared that my life looked really great on the outside, but on the inside, I felt trapped and alone because I was barely making enough money to pay my bills. I was struggling. I'd built this life that looked really, really good on the outside, but on the inside, I was one step from falling in a hole and one step closer to a mental breakdown. And with the new year coming, I just could not keep doing the same thing over and over again. So I sat down and I began to write. And I wrote down everything that I wanted for my life. I began to remember how much I really loved public speaking and training. And I remember how I used to travel all over the country, meeting different groups and speaking and training those different groups. And I became more and more passionate about that. So I started to seek out mentors who would help me get the training that I needed to move forward. So I was at an event with John Maxwell, who is one of my business partners and mentors, and he asked me a very profound and powerful question. He looked at me and he said, "Maria, what are you willing to give up to go up?" Now, I was extremely haunted by that question for a couple of days. And then I knew I had my answer. I knew I had to pursue my passion, and I had to begin my public speaking career on a professional level. That meant I would have to give up my dream of the dance studio to pursue an even bigger dream. So I had to give up to go up. In John's book, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, he says that you should be asking yourself 2 questions when you're faced with a potential trade-off. The first question is, what are the pluses and minuses of that trade-off? And the second question is, will I go through the change, or will I grow through the change? Now you see, trade-offs force us to make difficult personal changes. When you want something you have never had, you must be willing to do things you've never done. You must remember too that changes are personal, they're possible, and they're profitable. If you refuse to change, that could mean certain death to your full potential. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this is what I'm talking about. If you aren't willing to suffer a loss to go up, then you will stay the same. And the situations and things that you are trying to change will stay the same. So it's good to remember that a trade-off can be made at any time, okay? But you must remember that a few trade-offs can only be made once in a lifetime. The key thing to remember is the higher you climb, of course, the tougher the trade-offs are going to be. But the skills that you have now are not the skills that are going to get you to that next level. So you have to stay green and growing. You have to keep learning and growing, okay? So how many of you in here have that burning question right now in your head that says, how do I know that a trade-off, that a potential trade-off is worth making? Well, I'm going to give you 5 questions that you can be asking yourself. Now, you'll want to write this down, so grab your pens and pieces of paper, and you'll want to take these down. Are you ready? Okay, so turn to the person you're sitting beside of and say, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. First question. Am I willing to give up financial security today for potential tomorrow? Second, am I willing to give up immediate gratification for personal growth? Third, am I willing to give up the fast life for a good life? Now, let me take a moment and explain what I mean by fast life and good life. You see, we live in a culture today that idolizes movie stars and music stars. We drool over opulent mansions, idealize travel, and plays the lottery in hopes of someday getting closer to living the fast life. But most of that is just an illusion. It's no different than the airbrushed images on the front of those magazine covers that you see. It's not real. So, what is living the good life? Well, in their book, Repacking Your Bags, Richard Leder and David Shapiro write this. They have this formula for a good life. They say, a good life is living in a place you belong, with people you love, doing the right work on purpose. Let me say that one more time. Living a good life is living in a place you belong, with people you love, doing the right work on purpose. Wow. I'd say that's a pretty good description. Also, living the good life is going to require you not to be used up at the end of the day. How many of you in this room at the end of the day are all used up? Yeah, you get home, you are barely able to cook dinner for your kids, give them a bath, get them in bed. You drop on the couch, you may watch a movie before you go to bed, and you fall into bed. And you repeat, right? Day in and day out. Well, here's a few tips for you. Here's a few tips that you can start implementing to make sure that you're living a good life. Tip number 1, delegate so that you're working smarter, not harder. You don't have to do everything. Delegate. Do what you do best and drop the rest. God gave you gifts. Use those gifts. Do what you do best. Get control of your calendar. Otherwise, someone else will. Do what you love. It will give you the energy. And work with people you like so your energy is not depleted. How many of you live with people who suck the life out of you? Life suckers, you guys know them? You know what I'm talking about, the vampires? Well, those people are the ones who come to you nagging, wanting something. This happened, that happened. They're all over the place, all right? And it's always a bad day. Well, those people will continue to drain your life and suck your life. So be sure that you are working with people that you love and that your energy isn't being depleted. And if you do these things while doing the right work with purpose, in the right places with people that you love, you will be living the good life. So is any of this making sense? All right. 4th question. Am I willing to give up security for significance? Now, what does that mean? Well, I know a few people whose goal in life is security. Emotional security, physical security, financial security. But I don't think it's very wise to measure your progress according to security. I think it's wiser to measure it by significance. And that's going to require growth. You'll never get anywhere interesting by doing the safe thing. How many of you live a safe life or know someone who lives a safe life? They never take any risks. They go to their jobs, they do their jobs, they go home, and that's all they do. They live the safe life, and that's okay. But the significant thing to do is making a difference. So let me say that one more time. The significant thing is making a difference in the lives and people around you. The great men and women of history weren't great because of the things they owned and earned, but rather for what they gave their lives to accomplish. So you see, every trade-off is a challenge to becoming closer to your full potential. Are you starting to understand? You see, where I was working with a dance and theater company and impacting the people in my community, I was only working with people who stepped through my front door. See, that's called addition. I wanted to move people on a much larger scale, and I've been training and speaking for many years, and it's something that I just love to do. So I took the next steps in my personal growth journey, and I sought out mentors like John Maxwell to help me become a more effective speaker and trainer. not just in my hometown, but nationally and internationally. And that's why I've partnered with companies like Compassion International and the John Maxwell Team. So I gave up addition for multiplication and helping people and corporations across the globe communicate and thrive in an ever-changing world. And here's a few final thoughts. If you do not already consider yourself a leader, I want to encourage you to explore developing your leadership potential. Leaders learn to lead leaders, not just followers. Most people I work with try to take on too many projects and businesses at once. They want to keep adding without giving anything up. And you see, it doesn't work that way. You can't do everything. There are so many hours in a day. At some point, you will reach your limit. Besides, we all need to remember that if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I chose to step back from my dance studio and follow my dreams of public speaking. And I'm glad I did, because I've met some very interesting people. Do we have any checker players in the audience? Raise your hand. Checker players? Okay. Because I liken trade-offs to a chess game, or a checkers game, I should say. Surrender one to take two. Don't make two moves at one time. Move up, not down. And when you reach the top, you have the freedom to move any way you choose. If you want to reach your potential, be ready to make trade-offs. As author James Allen once said, "He who would accomplish little must sacrifice little, but he who would achieve much must sacrifice much." Most people settle in and learn to live a life with limitations and barriers, but those can easily be removed by making a trade. I'll leave you with these final questions. What is the next thing you need to trade for? And what are you willing to give up to go up? Thank you.